everybody, how's it going? How loud is that music in the background? Y'all tell me if the music's too loud, all right? Because I wanna keep it going even while I'm talking. Jimmy's. Hey, Kiss by Fire, how you doing? There we go. It's a little bit better. Probably a bit loud. Is that better? I turned it down. I'm still trying to figure this out. Hey, Chucky Bronzo. Okay, awesome. So, hey everybody, welcome to a very special edition of Bad Takes from Brunch. I am Gomer. What we're going to be talking about today is the quote-unquote left. The people who say they are real leftists. The people who call people like me synthetic leftists and tankies. And all the rest of the millions of funny epithets that get hurled at us. So, yeah, what we're going to talk about is how these people are exactly the same, 100% the same as the opportunists of Lenin's time. All right, they haven't changed, just like opportunism hasn't changed. The lower level opportunist talkers haven't changed, and their followers have not changed. Right. So in many ways, the point of this talk today is to discuss specifically how these people are not necessarily allies, and I'm not talking about Vaush, I'm not talking about Shu, I'm not talking about Merritt, I'm talking about their followers, right? I'm gonna tell y'all a little bit of history. We're gonna be goofy. I didn't make a presentation. It's just gonna be hanging out and talking and looking at different tweets and such. And yeah, we're gonna and a couple of videos. I got one video that I'm gonna show from Bodhisattva Bolshevik. But hey, Dorian Sapiens, how you doing? So yeah, I just think it's very important to talk about, because a lot of people have this feeling like yeah, I'm gonna be busting some chops today. A lot of people have the feeling that we have to cater to these quote-unquote leftists, right? This is why I call myself a communist and not a leftist, is because these people are not like us, and they haven't been for 100 years. They may join us, right? They may eventually come around, but not right now. Okay, we are not in a battle, right? There are people who get it and people who don't, and a lot of the people who don't are not going to get it until their material conditions change, until they get poor, until they suffer enough. These white folks who follow Vaush and Shu and all them are going to remain as terrible as they always have been. I mean, as bad as their grandparents and their great-grandparents were in 1912, all right? Darth Aztec, today I decided to go, this is Colorado brunch wear. This is how you look if you're going to brunch in Colorado. I got my flannels on, I got my puffer, and my cowboy hat. I mean, my kind of cowboy hat. God, I saw Ben Garrison's picture the other day, and he had a hat on that looked almost just like this. I about threw it away. Oh, shit. No one's going to brunch. We have a blizzard on. People need their brunch. People demand their brunch. So let's get started, huh? Let's get started. Okay. So let me turn on this background music because it's going to be distracting me. I'm a one-track mind kind of person, you know. I very much need to think about things clearly and specifically. I can't be doing multiple things at once. So even listening to music, when I listen to music, I just listen to music. I see some people. I see some people with like nice background music on through their whole streams, and I'm always like, man, how do you not get distracted by the music? How do you talk through the music? Anyway, all right. So what is opportunism, right? Hey, Sean, how you doing? We got Anarchist Laboratory Sean in the chat. Let's do a shout out to Anarchist Laboratory. So what is opportunism, right? y'all may know the definition of it. I certainly talk about it enough. It is important to, oh yes, it is, Sean. It's important to talk about it in specifically communist terms. All right. So when we talk about communist, the communist term anarchism. I don't know why I just said anarchism. I was looking at Anarchist Laboratory Sean's name. When we talk about the communists, yeah, I'm going to get in trouble for that. When we talk about the communist term opportunism, is what I was trying to say. Anarchists are not opportunists. When I talk about the communist term opportunism, um, what I mean is people who are going to take the truth. They're going to talk about the problems of the time. They're going to talk about all the ills of capitalism, all of the evil, and they're going to say, "Look, I understand this just like you." So when you look at Vaush, when you look at Shu, even Merrick, sometimes they will have these correct takes when they are diagnosing the problems of capitalism. When they are specifically speaking about capitalism, they are not always wrong, right? They miss a lot of the picture. Specifically, they miss a lot of the fundamental reasons and how white supremacy relates to capitalism. But when they're just talking about the shitty things that our government is doing, sometimes they have it right. And that's important, right? If they were totally wrong all the time, then everybody would just be like, these fucking idiots, right? They would treat them the same way that they treat Republicans, right? Nobody on the left is looking at Republican commentators and being like, well, why aren't they with us? How come they don't understand that we're all one working class? Oh, if only we could get them onto our side. Oh, if only we could teach them a little bit more. If only somebody could reach them and make them understand that they're white supremacists, right? Nobody's saying that about fucking Tucker Carlson, right? But I consider these people to be about the same as Tucker Carlson, about the same as any Republican talking head. And it is very important why I say that. Hey, go ahead. Hey, Rob Fun Muscle. Hey, T Griff. Shit, look at this. We got a bunch of fun people in the chat. Squizzer Vorbis in the chat. What's up, y'all? Let me give you some Comrade Gomer hellos in the chat. There we go. Hey, Tech Store. Shit. Okay. We got a lot of fun people. Hey, Anani. That's great. And Annie. I don't know why I call you Anani. I don't know why you put up with me. Hey, Ancom Soccer Mom. I appreciate y'all coming by. This is gonna be a shorter one, and I see we got fewer people than my nighttime streams, and that's great because this is really just gonna be kind of fun, to be honest. Hey, Koba. So these opportunists, we talk about them on the high level. We talk about them as far as like your Kotskys. We talk about your Bernsteins. All these people that Lenin in the old days was fighting with in a very public way, where they were the big thinkers of the time, right? We don't consider, yeah, exactly, Sean. We don't consider Vaush and Shu to be the big thinkers of our time, right? We don't consider there to be a war of words going on between fucking Breadtube and the rest of communist Twitter, right? That's silliness. No, T. Griff, he ain't gonna be here. He's officially uninvited. Hey, Crip Keeps, thank you so much for following. I appreciate that. So what's important is that there were other people besides, in Lenin's time, there were other people besides Kautsky and Bernstein who were, popular semi-leaders, right? There were other people who were not sitting down writing philosophical texts, right? They were agitating for people like Bernstein and Kautsky. These opportunists who were sapping the revolution of its momentum, who were trying to say we can work with the bourgeoisie, we can just get there through trade unions. We don't have to have a revolution, right? They had all these terrible takes, and they vacillated constantly on the topic of if revolution is necessary, right? Big Labber Boy, thank you so much for your follow. I appreciate that. There you go. I'm dancing. So yeah, the reason I talk about this is because if you read State and Revolution, and if you read what is to be done. In both cases, they are talking about Lenin is talking about how there's this huge group of people in the official, he calls it the Social Democrat Party, because at that time, that's what the communists were calling themselves, right? Correct, Sean, 100% correct. So, hey, Aisleen. Oh, shit, Feminist Critique's online. What's up? Let's give a shout out to Feminist Critique. So this is really important, right? The big movement of the time, certainly the Bolsheviks were they were a big movement in and of themselves, but they were fighting against these people. They were fighting against these social chauvinists, right? These opportunists. So there, throughout the course of history with communism, when we have been fighting against the bourgeoisie, when we've been fighting against the reactionary, we have always been fighting against the social chauvinist and the opportunist as well. There has always been a racist motherfucker who has been in the background saying, if we just did this for the right people, then perhaps we would be okay. You know what I mean? They have literally always been this person, right? They've always been like, oh, we can have a little bit of imperialist war as a treat. Like, literally, during Lenin's time, Lenin talks about this constantly, how a lot of these people were, they were totally okay with imperialism as long as it was serving them. They were okay with other people dying overseas as long as we had quote-unquote socialism back home. Go ahead. The person in the white balloon is Merrick. Merrick is not really on par with Shu and Vaush as far as following goes, but her terrible takes make up for it. So this is important to point out. Oh, Magoki, hey. It's important to point out that communists have literally been fighting these people from quote unquote within the left, right? There have always been these people who have said, hey, we're just like you. We're just like, we're communists too. We're Marxists too. We understand this shit. We just want to have a little bit of, we just want to have a little bit of imperialism as a treat. Or, hey, we just know we can't get this done all at once, right? We have to do it step by step. And the thing that they always have in common, oh boy, is my video frozen? My video is frozen on my end. God dang it. There we go. Hey, Real John Doe. So yeah, the thing that they have always had in common is a very specific set of things, right? They've always had racism in common. They have always had the willingness to put up with imperialism. They have always had said it's okay to collaborate with the bourgeoisie, and they have also always said that a certain amount of reactionaries in the movement is fine, right? So this is very important, right? All the things that I just said, you could have pulled from Twitter last week from these people. Like, you literally, we're going to look at a couple of tweets, but not too many. I don't really care to look at their most recent tweets, and they delete their worst tweets all the time. Like, you go back and try to find them, and they're gone. But it's really important to note that for over 100 years, the bad parts of their movement have remained the same. So when they present this shit as, oh, we're just looking at the material conditions of the time, we're just trying to be pragmatic, we're just trying to work with the situation that we've been given, we're trying to make things more safe for our minority comrades, right? You know who's going to die in a revolution? It's not going to be you white people, it's going to be the minorities. And while they are correct about some of that stuff, all of these reasons that they give, all of the shit that they talk about, right, are there simply to make you think that a revolution isn't necessary, and that they can just they can vote their way to freedom, and that they are the really smart ones, that they are the really pragmatic ones, right? Always is like that. It literally for 100 years it's been the same shit. So even though they repackage it in fancy ways, because at the time, these type people 100 years ago, these type people were they were very well funded. They were very popular. They also were trying to make themselves out to be the modern interpretation, right? Big Labra Boy says State and Revolution was almost entirely a response to Kautsky. Yes, because Kautsky was trying to set himself up as the successor to Marx. He was trying to say, like, this is the new Marxism, right? Which is exactly what you see. When you see Vaush and Shu with these very polished videos, with this very exciting way of talking, right? And if you're, maybe, especially if you're non-white, you probably watch these videos and you're like, this is exciting, this is terrible. No, the point is, it hits the white racist somewhere in their brain. The white racist liberal, which is all liberals, right? But the person who has not actually looked at the cost of imperialism, the person who does not understand that they live in a fundamentally white supremacist state, and that capitalism upholds racism like racism upholds capitalism, and that they are inextricably connected, right? That person, when they watch Vaush and they watch Shu, it hits them in a certain part of their brain, right? Just like back in the day. So that's why Lenin specifically came out and called them social chauvinists, right? So maybe you've heard the term male chauvinist pig, right? Hey, Mr. Pinko, there we go. Why do we have to be revolutionary and stupid? We're going to just mute you real quick, buddy. I am not speaking for non-white people. I wouldn't dare to do that. And I think a lot of people in the chat will say that I'm not speaking for non-white people, but what I'm saying is, if you are non-white and you watch these videos and they don't resonate with you in that way, there's probably a reason why. Because maybe you're not the target audience, right? In fact, the target audience is people who have not in any way examined their own white supremacy, right? And sure, there are non-white people who enjoy Vaush and Shu, right? But there have always been people who are victims of imperialism, who try to still take part in imperialism as much as possible. It's the same, like, it's the same thing as how there are non-white people in the Proud Boys. All right. So I'm not saying that you to watch Vaush and Shu immediately makes you a white supremacist and you're a Nazi or whatever. But what I am saying is that if you enjoy it, if it hits you in a certain part of your brain, there's a fairly good chance that you have some shit that you have not examined, right? Just like in 1917, when Lenin was talking about these people, he was talking about people who have not examined their own admission, their own being okay with imperialism, right? Hey, Jamie, how you doing? So, yeah, they think the current paradigm is okay so long as it's not in-your-face excesses of the ruling class. It's the same shit as lib representation fetish. That is exactly right, Magoki. Magoki, do you stream? You always come in and say some really good stuff. Are you the other part of Anarchist Laboratory? Anyway, Khalil, I have a terrible memory. Y'all got to forgive me. Did a lot of drinking in my youth. I got a little bit of wet brain, just a touch. So anyway, let's get into it. So Kalahia, thank you so much, Big Louder Boy. Saying you're tired of everybody grouping all Breadtubers in with these two. Oh, that's Ancom Psycom. That's yeah. I know it's Ancom Psycom, but I talked to them on here a couple times. We've DM'd in on Twitter, but I see Magoki all the time, so I just want to see. Okay, awesome. Very good. So, Kalahia, let me talk about that just for a second, all right? The fact that none of the other Breadtubers have a revolutionary program, that none of the other Breadtubers are willing to say that we live in a white supremacist society that is fundamentally broken and has to be replaced through revolution, means they are in line with these people, right? They are either opportunists or social chauvinists or both. The reason that Vaush and Shu are particularly bad, are particularly wrong, is because they are both opportunists and social chauvinists, right? Vaush is an opportunist and possibly a fed. There you go. Yeah, Jamie, that's very fair. Vaush talking to communists disrespectfully, especially like Vaush loves to talk to non-white and non-male comrades as disrespectfully as possible. It is unbelievable, right? Um, when I have when I have non-white, non-male people on, when I talk to them, I try to listen. You know what I mean? Because they have things to say that I can't know. Not that I just don't know, that I cannot know, that I have to learn from them, right? Because my experience as a white man limits me. The non-white person has to understand the white world and their own world, right? The white person only has to understand the white world. Um, Oh, yes, Seiji, I am. You know what? Let's fucking go straight to that. Let's just go straight to that. Because that's the one that really fucking got me. Okay. So, this is this is a gold star episode. We're going to talk about some really uncomfortable things, so strap in. I apologize for anybody that gets uncomfortable in the meantime, but yeah. Um, Vaush had apparently had this person on who said that they were a Nazi last year, right? And the thing that this person, Lena Luxray or whatever, the thing that they said got them to stop being a Nazi was COVID, George Floyd, and Vaush. All right. So this is really important, right? That we talk about how it is a good thing for white people to try to de-radicalize other white people, right? That for us it is part of our responsibility to not just sit online and talk about communism with our friends, but also to try to talk to our racist uncle and try to get them to be less racist, right? Many of our non-white comrades have told me this in particular, that kind of work is what I should be doing. And so I just want to say that this is not saying, like, what Vaush did is not that kind of de-radicalization. Kelly Rue, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's amazing. Um, so so what they're doing whenever they're taking somebody who hasn't shown any kind of growth, right? Who just simply comes out and says, "Oh yeah," shrugs it off. "Oh yeah, I used to be a Nazi, no big deal, no problem. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, y'all." Right? Whenever it's that kind of attitude, and this person platforms them and specifically talks about helping them jumpstart their streaming, right? Puts them up as an example. You know that it is a problem, right? Because they have not addressed any of the reactionary tendencies this person had. They have not addressed any of the problematic reasons, any of the things that caused them to say that they were a Nazi in the first place. And you know what? A lot of people will say, like, it is important for us to try to de-radicalize these people because the left is always like, "Oh, it's not my responsibility to teach you," and then the right is like, "Hey, come on, let me teach you all about anti-Semitism and racism and hate. Now we're going to take over the United States with Day of the Rope, blah blah blah." Right? So the thing is, yeah, white people have a responsibility to reach out to these people, but we also have a responsibility not to platform them and not to hold them up as successes when all they've done is paid lip service to not being a Nazi anymore, right? The casualness is the problem. So, Tolstoy, who do you cover your mouth? Do you have a weak chin? No, in fact, I do not. My chin is glorious. You can look at it on Twitter. Go ahead. So yeah, this is very important. This is very important because there's a difference, right? The reason I bring that up is because the difference is social chauvinism. The difference is social chauvinism. If you actually are not bothered by someone being a Nazi, if it makes you feel gross, but as soon as they say they're not a Nazi anymore, then you feel better. If none of the underlying conditions that brought them to get there bothers you whatsoever, then what you have is a certain amount of allowance for bad ideas, as long as they're not said aloud. You stopped beating your wife. Exactly. Like, congratulations, you've really done something. That's not how this works, right? Yeah, sure. We can bring up how Mao took Chinese troops who were working for the Japanese, people who were literally killing his own people, and turned them into his guerrilla troops sometimes, right? But in no way did he ever say, let's remix these people with the rest of our troops. He, like in guerrilla warfare, Mao literally says, you have to get the buy-in of both the leadership and the troops if you ever want to remix these people into your groups. And oftentimes it's better to keep them separate, right? So that's vitally important, that Mao was talking about people who are Chinese, right? Chinese who are hurting other Chinese people at that time, and saying even then you have to get the agreement of the other troops, of the other Chinese people. So when we're talking about people who hate whole groups of people, right? When we're talking about these white folks who are actively trying to hurt our non-white comrades, we at least have to get the bare minimum of buy-in from them, right? Like, doesn't that make sense? That if Mao had to get the buy-in from people who were like them, like if it was a white person who had hurt other white people, getting the white people's buy-in would be necessary as a corollary. But when you don't even try to get the people's buy-in that they had hurt, right? If you had had some troops who had burned down half a village, right? Are you going to bring them in to the other half of the village and say, hey, they're reformed now, it's all good, it's no big deal? Look, they said they don't want to burn down villages anymore, so now they're part of our group. Isn't that great? Isn't it great that they don't want to burn down villages anymore? What are y'all talking about? You're so mad. They said they don't want to burn down villages anymore. It's just like that, right? There's more to it than just saying it. There's certainly a certain amount of re-education, but there's also the asking of permission, the asking for buy-in, the asking for our non-white comrades to say about some of these people who are quote-unquote reformed that yes, they can be allowed into the space, right? Is something that these type white quote-unquote leftists, they don't give a fuck about whatsoever. They don't care about, they're not interested in, right? And it goes to show that even though they say, yes, we listen to black people, yes, we don't want to hurt people, we don't want to be racist, it's the other people who are racist, right? When they get in on that kind of shit, right, it just goes to show that these people like Shu and Vaush haven't learned a fucking thing, right? Of all the times that people have told me, oh no, they're better now, oh no, that was years ago, oh no, you don't understand because you're just such a hateful old commie and people make one mistake one time and you write them off forever. Well, let me just say that when I see shit like this, when I see them actually platforming someone who has done nothing for their non-white comrades and yet is being celebrated for being an ex-Nazi, it just goes to show me that they haven't changed whatsoever. It was 2 years ago, man, thing that people tell me about Vaush saying the N-word sure don't hold no weight whenever he's platforming an actual Nazi. You know what I'm saying? So, a couple people said, what is social chauvinism? Gunpei, yeah boy. Social chauvinism is basically where you're a quote-unquote socialist, but you think that your country is the best, right? You think that you're nationalistic, you're okay with imperialism, right? Or you're okay with some imperialism, or rather, let's say that if you don't fight actively against imperialism, you're okay with it, right? So the social chauvinist is somebody who has this slightly liberal nationalistic quality to them, right? And they're the American exceptionalists, right? They're the people who think that America as it stands could be saved, right? So the social chauvinists of Lenin's time were people who didn't give a shit about the international proletariat. They didn't give a shit about workers abroad. They didn't give a shit about specifically when you're talking about the Germans, right? The German petty bourgeoisie, the people who were a little bit rich, who called themselves socialists, but really were just worried about Germany, right? Really, they just wanted to have socialism for themselves so that they could have a better life, right? They wanted to avoid the Nazis coming to power, but they weren't willing to do anything about it, right? They were not willing to actually fight and die to help prevent it. They were simply willing to try to march a little bit, peacefully protest, shit like that. Does that sound familiar to you? Does that sound like anybody you know that you've seen? So yeah, it sounds like we're still on about opportunists. Indeed, Two Hit Good, we are. So TMKF says, what kind of material work has the ex-reactionary done to undo their reactionary tendencies? As soon as I start seeing these ex-Nazis form groups where they are standing in between themselves and protesters, standing between the cops and the protesters, at protests to protect the protesters with their bodies, whenever I see them atoning in ways that mean anything, whenever I see my non-white comrades saying that they are doing good work, then I will give them a chance. It's not up to me. It's not up to me as a white person to try to give them a chance publicly and vocally, right? Now, it is up to me to speak to them privately, perhaps, and say, listen, I will teach you. I'll give you materials. If you're serious, then I'll give you materials, right? Because hurting white supremacy any way we can is in fact part of our responsibility as white folks. But that don't mean saying, hey, here's a pat on the back. It means me saying to them, until you have proven to the world time and again that you are no longer a shithead, then you are a shithead to me and to everybody else. You know? Yeah, Proud Boys and Boogs are social chauvinists. Absolutely. But so are a whole lot of liberals. I would say that the majority of liberals are social chauvinists. Proud Boys and Boogs are just open social chauvinists, right? The flag-waving liberal is just as much a social chauvinist as any Proud Boy, in my personal opinion. White Gentiles think having wanted to commit genocide against people like me is just something everyone goes through. Yes, exactly, Jason Voorhees. That's some wildness. That is some wildness. And it just goes to show you how prevalent white supremacy is in our culture, right? And when I say our culture, I mean white people. White people have a white supremacy problem. And this isn't new. To anyone who's not white, it's not new. But for some reason, white folks have a problem saying that your average liberal is a white supremacist, but just wants to be really quiet about it, right? So, it was pointed out how earlier how easy it is for these people to slide back into Nazism. Yeah, these people are literally like, if you're mean to me, I will be a Nazi again. I mean, how little growth do you have to say, if you're mean to me, I will want to kill you again. In fact, I will join a movement dedicated to killing you if you're mean to me. I mean, really. I mean, really. How is that acceptable? How is that okay? How do we look at that and say, you know what? Let's have you on the show. How does Vaush say? That's great. Yeah, it's the ultimate take my ball and go home. Absolutely. Absolutely. Real John Doe calling me fragile? I don't know. Are you calling me fragile? I don't mind if you call me fragile. But it's okay. Anyway, so yeah, that's white fragility. But let's get particularly into Vaush. So I found a couple of good things. I found a really fun video of a bunch of bad Vaush takes, and I'm just going to go through them, right? And I found a really funny thread. When I say funny, I mean horrible and terrible. Oh, sorry, Real John Doe. I thought you was somebody else. Okay, very good. Thank you. To be honest, I knew as soon as I started coming for Vaush, I was going to have some people coming in being a little bit interesting. So forgive me if I'm a little quick on the jump to ask somebody if they're being a shithead or not. Thank you. That's the way it goes, though. These Vaush people are the same. These Vaushites, as they're called, right? They're the same social chauvinists as we've been fighting against for 100 years. They are extremely quick to attack. They don't stay in their own spaces, right? They don't stay in their own spaces and just be wrong and be okay about it. They're constantly coming into non-white spaces, especially, but they're coming into communist spaces, and they specifically want to debate us, right? The sea lioning that comes from the Vaushite types is unbelievable, right? They're constantly like, can you explain exactly what you mean? Can you find me some examples where they've done that? I'm just trying to have a conversation with you, but you seem so aggressive and angry. I'm just trying to have an open debate, a free and clear conversation. Don't you believe in free speech, right? These motherfuckers are always talking the same exact line, and they were back then. When you talk about what is to be done, right? Lenin specifically talks about how these people were always on about freedom of debate, right? Freedom of criticism, where they wanted to be able to criticize Lenin and for Lenin not to say shit. They wanted to be able to exist in the same spaces as the rest of as Lenin's communists, They wanted to say, hey, we're communists too, and we want you to accept us as communists, and we want you to accept our ideas and have a battle of ideas rather than having this pushing us out that you're always doing, right? So they were literally doing the same thing. These people in 1912, and then again, for decades, these people were like this back then. They were literally saying the same shit of, we're just like you. Why can't you stand debate? Why can't you stand conversation? Why do you hate free speech? They were literally on the same bullshit back then, right? What are your sources? That doesn't prove that. Oh boy, y'all be careful, Rod. You got to be careful with that. I'm glad you put /S in there because Lord knows anybody who. Y'all be careful with the sarcastic nastiness. I'll be careful with it too. I'm trying not to hurt any of my non-white comrades today by actually giving example Vaush takes. It's going to be hard. That's why I said this is a gold star episode. Just asking questions, jacking off. Oh, that's funny as fuck. That is hilarious. A nanny saying sounds like Ben Shapiro. Exactly. It is. Sea lioning is Ben Shapiro's main thing, right? But it's all these people's thing. They can't get by on the strength of their own ideas. What ideas does Vaush have, right? Like vote your way to freedom. Oh, Tolstoy, I wanted to give you a chance, bud. So yes, it works because it's hijacking the conversation. Exactly. These people really want to control the conversation. That's the only way that they can do it because their own arguments can't stand up to scrutiny. So they have to tailor the exact path that the conversation takes, or else they're lost. What is sea lioning? Imagine a sea lion barking, right? So sea lioning is when you are consistently in bad faith asking people to give you sources, to talk to you, presenting yourself as just someone who wants to know, someone who's just asking questions, right? That is sea lioning. Because what it does is it purposefully wastes the time and energy of the other person and makes them look bad, right? Makes them look unreasonable. The whole point of people like Vaush and people like Kautsky 100 years ago, who Vaush is in the spirit is the spiritual successor of Vaush of Kautsky. Vaush is the spiritual successor of Kautsky. Sorry, I fucked myself all up by messing that up. Is these people want to say that we're unreasonable. That's what I was trying to say. People like Vaush want to say that we're unreasonable, that if only we would listen more, if only we would have open conversations, if only we would reach across the aisle to people who are trying to talk to us, right? People who really want to learn about socialism, but unfortunately we're just so bullheaded, we're just so mean about everything that we scare people off, right? Oh, these damn SJWs, oh, these damn ID poll people, they always come in and we're hurting the movement by being so rude. That's the same shit Kautsky said, it's the same shit Bernstein said, and it's the same fucking thing that Vaush says now. Hey, socialist, how you doing? Glad you're here. Gunslinger, so it has to be people who are consistently asking the same questions? Not necessarily. Sometimes they ask different questions. Sometimes they're very, very tricky about how they see lion, right? They really want to make it seem like they're just trying to have a conversation with you. So they'll try a bunch of different tacks. They'll offer to debate. When that doesn't work, they'll offer to learn from you, and they'll just ask a bunch of questions and waste your fucking time, right? Happens in my DMs all the time on Twitter. Gomer is joining Rose Twitter, yes. That's how... I like the /S thing that a lot of my neurodivergent people are doing. I also like putting roses around my shitty tweets whenever I'm doing Rose Gomer shit. Just letting people know you're being sarcastic is important nowadays because of how shitty people really can be. Oh yeah, we've all fallen for it, Gunslinger. We all have fallen for it. Magoki, people talking about quote unquote purity tests, right? Exactly. They say, "Oh, you're always doing purity tests. If people aren't just like you in line with your ideas, then you're kicking them out of the movement." Guess what? That's exactly what these social chauvinists were saying 100 years ago, right? So I'm going to keep repeating this because I want it to really sink into everybody that this type shit that we see from Vaush and Shu and all these other bread tubers is not anything new, right? It's the presentation of the problem in an accurate way. It's the co-opting of revolutionary language and the repositioning everything into a soothsaying type way of being, where you can say, "Oh, you don't actually have to do any of the hard revolutionary stuff. You don't have to change your life that much. We're all in this together. We're going to fight for unions. We're going to vote. We're going to do anything but have a revolution. We're going to do literally anything but have a revolution." These people have been saying the same shit for years. What do I think of leftist infighting? Do I consider Vaush as being on my team? No, not at all. That's the point. Go ahead. That's what I'm trying to say here, is that these people were fighting Lenin, and they fought Lenin to the death. They actually had battles with Lenin. They actually literally came out with guns against Lenin. And I believe that Vaush's fans, as well as Vaush himself, I'm not really worried about these speakers so much as the people that follow them, right? The reason they follow them is because they are social chauvinists. They are still fundamentally white supremacist and nationalistic, just with a little bit of socialism thrown in for good measure, right? A little bit of socialism so they can soothe their egos and feel like they're good people, right? So these are the type of people who will literally be fighting us until they change. I believe some of Vaush's fans will eventually come over and become communists whenever they become ashamed of their ideology and their behavior, but not all of them, not even the majority of them, and that is very important to talk about. We have to set clear dividing lines. And that's why I don't use the term leftist. Because people like Vaush and people like, and specifically Vaush's followers, will call themselves leftists, right? If somebody calls himself an anarchist and they say a bunch of dumb bullshit, then people like Anarchist Laboratory Sean and Antifa Moose and a lot of my other people who are in the chat, Exquisitor Vorbis, are going to come after them and say, "Hey, you can't call yourself an anarchist and be a fucking asshole," right? If somebody calls himself a Marxist-Leninist, right, and I see them saying a bunch of mess, I will say, "You are saying a bunch of mess," right? But when somebody calls himself a leftist, when we say shit like leftist, right, then who knows what they are? Who knows what they really believe? Can we really say, "Oh, you can't say that," right? That's not a leftist talking point, because no, a lot of times when they are social democrats or Vaushites, whatever the fuck that is, then in fact it is exactly what they say, and it's what they've always said. 100 years of them saying the same shit. So let's leftist is a very stupid word, Antifa Moose. Exactly. Now I don't talk about this stuff very much. I don't talk about Vaush or Shu or any of the other social chauvinists and opportunists because I don't think it's valuable. I think that generally speaking, I want to talk to y'all about theory. I want to talk to y'all about organizing. I want to talk to y'all about the real shit going on in the world. I have no patience for a lot of these people, right? But I do think that every now and again, whenever it takes over Twitter discourse and we start talking about is this really the left? Is this the kind of behavior we want to see on the left? And especially when my non-white comrades are starting to feel more and more pressed in on. I mean, I was looking at Chantilly's feed the other day, and they were feeling pressed on all sides about this shit. You know what I mean? So when someone that I really respect is feeling that way, then it bears talking about it at least a little bit. That's why I'm doing a Sunday stream and talking about it rather than on my normal streams, because this shit is like flies in your face. We need to be wiping away Vaushites. We don't need to be considering them part of our movement. We don't need to be considering them like us whatsoever. You don't consider Republicans to be like you. You don't need to consider Vaushites to be like you either. Straight up. Hell yeah, leftist fairy cow. And it's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay to call yourself a leftist. I'm not saying that it's a crime. What I'm saying is, don't consider yourself to be anything like these people. And if you call yourself a communist, you will have a much easier time of separating yourself out from these people, right? So don't feel bad, but call yourself a communist. Call yourself what you really are. Mr. Pinko, serious question. Why no debates? You know, I think I timed you out for a bit, so you are a little bit on notice, Mr. Pinko. But debates in general are not useful. Why? Because debates allow shitty people to expound more and more their shitty ideas, do supercuts of them sounding good, right? Put it on YouTube, do reaction videos later to what you say and mock you and make you sound dumb, right? And give their audience something to laugh about later on. So I think it is very important to say that I have what I have to say. I have the things that I have to say. I have no reason to debate you, right? I have no reason to debate Vaush or any of these other people simply because it doesn't do very much, right? It doesn't teach them anything. I'm not going to convince Vaush to stop being a white supremacist bigot, you know what I mean? I'm only going to give them more of a platform and give them more ammunition in the form of their VODs and their supercuts. So I don't do it. Yeah, debates are for white folk with time and privilege to sit around and pontificate about shit. Exactly, Sean. Exactly. I don't get how there's an industry centered around reaction videos. Yeah, agreed. Feminist critique. Thank you so much. I appreciate the subscription. Shit. All right, let's give a shout out. I haven't shouted y'all out in a minute, so let's do a shout out to Feminist Critique, and let's do a shout out to Anarchist Laboratory. These are people who I really appreciate and respect. Now, I've been talking for a minute. Let me just go ahead and thank you, Moxie. I appreciate the follow. Let me go ahead and just run through some bad shit Vaush says, so y'all don't think that I'm just talking out my ass. All right? Are we getting rated? Is there actually somebody rating? Okay, Mr. Pinko, you can learn. You're going to get timed out one more time. There you go, buddy. If Sean feels like answering you on that, go ahead. TMKF, redeem quick draw. Do I have anything that I can quick draw on? I don't. Shit. Oh, shit. Hold on. I don't have anything I can do with a quick draw. All right, let's just see if I can hit anything over there. It's dark back there. Oh. Nope. Yeah. I hit the glass, but I didn't knock it over. There we go, Red Cosmonaut. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, Red. You said sorry I'm late. We've just been talking a little bit about Vaush. I'm going to get straight to the meat of it right now. Okay, so Vaush says, I wonder if it upsets any of the tankies online that it took me about a year to become larger than every single hard tanky YouTuber on the platform, because nobody likes their ideas and they are utterly irrelevant outside of people with severe emotional issues and a desire to overcompensate for a feeling of powerlessness in their lives, so they project their desire for authority onto societies they like the aesthetics of. Oh, shit. Right on, Rod Fumus. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Let's get a couple of Gomers in the chat. Here we go. So, yes, this is a very hilarious cell phone where the point is that these type people appeal to liberals. Vaush appeals to liberals. Vaush does not challenge liberals, right? So because he doesn't challenge liberals, they follow him. They enjoy his content. But who ends up fighting, right? The Bolsheviks called themselves the Bolsheviks, which means the majoritarians, the majority of the people in the Communist Party, right? Oh shit, we got a lot of people. That's really funny. But that was after they had already beaten the Mensheviks, the minoritarians, right? The minority of the Communist Party. They didn't start out that way. In the beginning, Lenin was fighting against the established Communist Party of his time, right? The people who called themselves communists and were actually just like Vaush and Shu, right? So they ended up winning. They ended up winning the party, but it wasn't that way at first. So Vaush is literally saying, like, yeah, everybody likes to follow me. Doesn't that suck, tankies? But really what's going on is It's because you suck, dude. It's because people literally identify with you before they have ever looked at their own white supremacy. They literally like you because you sound like them. So, continuing. Oh, yeah, and that, absolutely, Jamie. There's so much to unpack there with erasure of billions of people in Marxist-Leninist countries, ableism, the fact that private companies are going to make it harder to platform ideas that are threatening to capital. Yeah, I mean, I get fucking booted off Twitter all the time for no reason. They even tell me, we're booting you for no reason. Oh, shit, Comrade Kenny's in the chat. What's up, Kenny? Let's give a shout out to Comrade Kenny. Comrade Kenny is a Twitch streamer who talks about very important things on a constant basis. Has a ton to say. Respect the hell out of him. Yeah, so we're just gonna follow Comrade Kenny. If you follow me and you don't follow Comrade Kenny, what is you doing? You need to change that. You need to follow him if you follow me. He's got way more to say than me. All right. Here's one of Vaush saying the peasants were the proletariat. It's not a big deal, but it's just fucking wrong, and it's very funny. U.S. geopolitical power is important to me personally because I'm not ready to lose that to China. I mean, god damn, that is bad. God damn, that is bad. I just don't even know what to say about that one, right? The United States is the great evil in the world. The United States is what holds socialist revolutions back. And he calls himself a libertarian socialist. If you give a shit about quote-unquote libertarian socialism, if you give a shit about anarchism, you have to give a shit about taking out the United States from global power. You have to. There's no way that there is an anarchist revolution anywhere on Earth while the United States still exists. You can have small pockets of territories. You can have areas, but the idea of having an anarchist area, keep its sovereignty, right? As in, like, keep from returning to capitalism while the United States exists. I mean, come on. I mean, really, come on. Do you see China going out and gunning down socialist revolutionaries abroad? Come on. This is a terrible fucking take. Continue. Marxism is supposed to be an extension of liberalism, not a rejection of it. I have that on video in a second. Marxism is supposed to be an extension of liberalism, not a rejection of it. Y'all revive me from the dead. Hold on, I have died. Please, chat, revive me from the fucking dead. Do whatever you have to do. Pray to whatever gods you have. I am dead. Oh, shit. Okay. It's very funny how the social patterns of tankies and Nazis mirror one another. Wow. Okay. Horseshoe theory confirmed. There we go, Kova. Thank you, Kova. I appreciate that. I diagnose you with life. Yeah, that is a nuclear take. Agree, Sean. Yeah, it's literally part of the plan, Comrade Kenny says. There's a book called The Cultural Cold War that talks about this, where the leftists call out totalitarianism. They notice only when they focus on the global south and communist countries under the guise of being fair while not noticing their own country because of their socialism, their chauvinism, right? The social chauvinism absolutely is a part of that, criticizing all other countries and only keeping the barest of brief criticisms for their own country as a whole. They'll criticize politicians in their countries, they'll criticize companies, they'll criticize aspects, but they will not criticize the country as a whole. You will never hear Vaush saying that the United States is the great evil in the world. Stay mad, Redfish. Seiji, I'm glad you put that /S. So, you can still satirize liberals. It's very, very possible to satirize us because we're reasonable, right? Okay, let's... He had some terrible things to say about non-binary people, and, you know, I don't even want to go into that because it grosses me the fuck out. But let's get on down to we'll have a clip of him saying some anti-trans stuff in a second. Which again, this is a gold star episode, so if that shit hurts you, I recommend taking a breather, taking a break, and coming back for a Tuesday or a Friday episode, because we have to go in on this shit and we have to show that it's real. But that doesn't mean anybody has to get triggered by it and get shown things are going to hurt them. So anyway. So Jamie, you say you feel like he might be getting at how Marx was saying capitalism is a stage after feudalism. He was trying to get there. I think it might even be in the video, but no, him saying that it's the natural liberalism is the natural progression from Marxism is the absolute incorrect way of saying it. Right? You can say that the means of production have changed the way things happen, and that there has been a natural progression from one government form due to changes in the means of production. That's okay, right? But to say that liberalism is the successor of Marxism is to be a Kautskyite, right? That is literally Kautsky's, whole thing. So yeah, we don't fuck with that. So, Red Cosmonaut saying Vaush is so weird because he will strongly support and defend trans people, then turn around and say despicable shit. He does not strongly defend them. He verbally talks about defending them. He does things like holds fundraisers for Black Lives Matter and shit like that. But to say that it's actually defending them is different. And that gets back to him platforming this Nazi the other day, right? The idea that someone just saying that they're different, someone paying lip service to something and not ever doing anything in real life about it, right? Never actually doing anything for the material conditions of anybody that he's talking about is very important, right? And the more you can say, I support trans people 100 times, but the one time you do something that is actively anti-trans, right? It washes away all those 100 times that you said it, right? Because that's what all of these, like especially the liberals do, right? They will say again and again, we support minorities, we support minorities, we support everybody who is marginalized, we support people who are put to the sides of capitalism, who cannot win in this country. And then every time after 1,000 times saying that, they'll do something to actually hurt them. Vaush is a liberal. But more importantly, liberals are no different from conservatives. They are the two wings of the capitalist party, right? There is no difference between somebody like Vaush and somebody like Tucker Carlson, okay? Peachy Bonnie, thank you so much for following. I appreciate that. Literal Toy Story meme, exactly. Hey, Castle, how you doing? Thank you so much. Shit, KDC Catherine, thank you so much for your follow. I appreciate y'all. Passive resistance to the status quo is not enough. You have to fight this shit because the status quo wants anyone that isn't a cishet white dude dead. Exactly. Exactly right. Just verbalizing that you care about trans people 100 times doesn't make you transphobic. Verbalizing that you want to work to help marginalized people in this country doesn't do shit for the marginalized people in this country, right? So you might be asking, well, Gomer, what are you doing? What are you doing for this country, right? What are you doing for the marginalized folks? Well, one thing is trying to educate people about theory, trying to get people to read more rather than just entertaining them is a part of my praxis, right? I do stuff in the real world. I do stuff like, tenants union work and unhoused neighbor defense and feeding and stuff. But more importantly, actual education trumps these kind of reaction videos and these kind of just getting off on arguing with people, right? The debate bro shit where nobody learns anything. Because people will say, oh, I learned from debates. No, you don't. Listen, you learn from reading. You learn from engaging with theory. You learn from sitting in a reading group and having other people read to you. You learn from actual dissections of text, right? You don't learn from listening to people argue with each other and say dumb shit that doesn't actually mean anything and that oftentimes isn't true. That's not learning, right? It's important. And the people that I respect on different streaming platforms who are actual teachers, they do that. Maybe they have times like this where we go in hard about opportunists and people who are bad, but that's not where our praxis stops, right? Like I consider myself an educator, not a streamer, right? And people like Comrade Kenny are educators, not streamers, right? Because Kenny doesn't just sit around and goof off. Kenny doesn't just read the news of the day and say, oh, damn, ain't the world bad? Kenny actually Kenny actually does shit, right? Kenny does research, original research, and tries to teach people with this original research, right? So this kind of shit is what matters, okay? That kind of stuff where you're actually trying to get people to change their minds and change their lives, do something in their communities. That kind of shit is what matters, all right? Video has been loading for about 4 minutes. All right. If my video is bad, let me know. I don't know what I'll do. Persephone, thank you so much for following. All right, let's keep going. The Democratic Party of the United States of America, even those milquetoast weaklings, love how he uses all these old ass like 1950s words, are committed to this. Like even people like Pete Buttigieg were talking about the Frederick Douglass plan to put forward reparations to black folk and ease the racial economic divide. What you're talking about, what you're trying to sell to me as black nationalism is so milquetoast that you could speak about it on the public debate stage in a presidential election. Imagine talking to a black person like that. Holy shit, I can only imagine. Like T and Spittin is going to be coming on the program again in a couple of weeks, maybe next week. I just like imagining me saying that to him, like saying your version of black nationalism is fucking anything. Like as soon as the words leave your lips, your version of black nationalism, just cut it. Stop right there. Don't say nothing else, right? People say leftist fairy cow, black nationalism is like a dog whistle. You know what? What I say is marginalized folks have every right. We don't give them the right. They naturally have the right to say whatever they want. They have as far as their own self-determination, right? We have to stop oppressing them. It's not that we give them any rights. It's not that we have to let them do something. No, we just need to stop oppressing marginalized people and let them do their own thing, right? If black people decide as a group that they want to have their own area, right, away from white people, doesn't it make sense that maybe they want to live outside of the range of their oppressors, right? The idea that things like fucking integration, right, have wholly helped black people, and any black person who doesn't like integration is being counter to our democratic ideals, right? Anytime somebody says some shit like that, you know you're talking to a racist. Anytime somebody tries to tell a black person how they need to approach revolution, you're talking to a racist. So, I mean, same thing with my indigenous comrades, any of my marginalized comrades, right? Even women. Even talking about trans folk, if anybody wants to be separate from their oppressor, they have that right. Right? It's not a right that we give. It's a right that is inborn in us, right? So when we talk about liberal, quote unquote, liberal rights, I believe that we need to extend that to things like just being away from our oppressors, right? I'm going to stop getting on a tear about that, but I just need, pull the knife all the way out and people can heal themselves. It ain't healing to pull the knife part of the way out. And it damn sure ain't my place to tell anybody who my people have stuck a knife into their back to tell them how they want the knife removed. Okay? Continuing. Yeah, thank you, Pinko the Bear. Yeah, it's called Kenny, how you pronounce that? Maroonage? I know that has to do with maroon colonies, right? Is that an okay thing to say? Shit. I was reading about it in Angela Davis's Women, Race, and Class, but I always don't know if, like, I don't talk about that shit because, I go on a little bit of a tear about it now, but only to the extent of saying white people shut up. White people don't tell black people about how to go about their own revolution, their own liberation, right? Okay, cool. Okay, we're gonna get into the anti-indigenous stuff in a second. So let's just go on to this video real quick. Let's see. We're gonna turn on the desktop audio, turn it up. Y'all tell me if the volume levels are okay, right?
Not nice, but a bit more chill. You were aggressive as fuck. I really don't think so. I actually think maybe this is my bias. I think
Can y'all hear that?
I think a lot of you guys are unironically just Mexi fans, or or you're simping because she's a woman. Oh God, fuck you guys.
Have a good one,
Guys, just so
Gunslinger.
you know, hey, speaking of reading theory, just so you fucking know, just so you realize, when Marx and following theorists wrote on capitalism, they were not writing capitalism and liberalism are worst things to ever happen to humanity. They are greatest oppressor of workers. No. Liberalism, Marxism is supposed to be an extension of liberalism, not a rejection of it, a true promotion of unity, fraternity, and freedom.
Okay. Liberty, fraternity, and freedom, right? Yeah, exactly. Feminist critique. White people when they're told to hush, but I have an opinion. Listen to me. Listen to my bullshit. Okay, so that's what I'm saying, right? When he said that liberalism is the successor to Marxism, he was literally talking about the the French Revolution, right? That happened at the same time that Marxism was developed. I don't think he knows what he's talking about. Okay, let's keep going.
And liberty and shit. That's what Marxism and that's what leftism is about. It's about bringing the messaging of the liberal movement forward.
Unfortunately, this is one of the many ways in which comedy is dead thanks to conservatives. You can still satirize liberals. It's very, very possible to satirize us because we're reasonable. But conservatives have obliterated our ability to engage in reasonable satire of conservatives because they will do everything that we make fun of them for. Did I say liberals? The mask slipped for a second. I mean anarchists, my fellow lefties.
Those compass, by the way.
Ah, shit. Thank y'all. Oh, boy. Okay. So, am I back now? Can y'all hear me now? Okay. I am a tech boomer. I apologize. Okay. So what I was trying to say there before I so stupidly muted myself. Thank you, Annihilator. So what I'm trying to say here is he calls himself an anarchist, and he also calls himself a liberal. My anarchists in the chat, have any of y'all ever called yourself just a fucking regular old liberal? Do you think that there's anything in common between anarchism and being a fucking liberal? Do you think there is a single point of view that y'all hold in common with liberals? I mean, really, a single thing. I can't think of one. Of all the anarchist texts that I've read, I have never seen anything that was like oh yeah, and by the way, support imperialism. Oh yeah, we can incrementally get our way to progress, right? No. Shit. Okay. I'm going to not be a boomer this time when I keep going. I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to unmute the desktop audio. And then when I speak, I'm going to unmute myself.
Nice. Lib left, as we all should be. But everyone will end up lib left on that compass unless they are basically a fascist.
So,
okay, real quick, talking about the political compass. The political compass is bullshit. I don't want anybody to ever be posting their political compass. not on my page. Not talking to me about it. And you know why? Thank you, Saprowski, for following. I appreciate that. The reason why talking about the compass is bullshit is because ideologies are not like, okay, if we just get a little bit more to the left, whatever the fuck that means, and then we get a little bit more authoritarian, oh, then we hit Leninism. But if we keep going, then we hit Stalinism. Oh, and if we keep going, you know, it's silliness, right? That's not how ideology works, right? It's not just some collection of like some random unknowable variable that is on one axis and then authoritarian versus libertarian on the other axis. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything, right? So I want y'all, to stop worrying about that fucking political compass, because it is I swear to God, it's a CIA psyop. I swear to fucking God, it's from the CIA. It doesn't make any sense otherwise, right? Or rather, I think the person who made it originally literally made it as a joke, and then it just got blown up out, like everybody loves it now, because it simplifies things, right? And the most important thing is it makes people think it's okay to have different opinions, and that we're all just somewhere on this political compass. Maybe you're a little bit farther up and to the left than I am, but really, look at this. We're not to the right. We're not in the blue quadrant, right? We're not in the yellow quadrant, so we must be okay. Comrade Kenny says something. He says that he called our good friend Andre. This is so funny. Calling him ableist for saying he needs to read is very funny. Saprowski, Luna definitely already obliterated Vaush, but what I'm specifically talking about here is how important it is to note that Vaush is exactly the same as the opportunists and the social chauvinists of 1912, that there is a lineage of these people, and that their followers also have a lineage, that the people who have not examined their own white supremacy, that the people who have not examined their own social chauvinism, their own nationalism, their own thinking that their group is actually better, even if it's just deep down, even if they don't really admit it, right? Even if they don't admit it to themselves, right? They still actually haven't done any fucking work, right? We have to recognize that those followers from 1912 are the same as these followers now. And guess what those followers did in 1912, right? These people, they didn't just vocally oppose Lenin, right? Eventually, they ended up fighting him. So what I am saying is there is no difference. There is literally no difference between these people who are opportunists, the followers who are opportunists, who think that Nazis can be rehabilitated simply by dropping the Nazi from their name, right? Say, oh, I'm not a Nazi anymore. Now I'm something different, but I'm definitely not a Nazi, right? Anybody they accept those kind of people, right? That they are the same as Republicans. Why? Because they all serve fascism at the end of the day. They all serve fascism at the end of the day. Okay. So, continuing.
Be held responsible for doing that, not be pornography. Pedophile. So if you were to, so, you know, there's pedophiles, right, who buy child pornography.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say they should not be held responsible for doing that?
Yes. Should consuming child porn be legal? I think that would be, yes, more legal and more ethically consistent. Yes, 100%. The left community online.
Okay, so I don't know if y'all caught that just then, but that definitely was him saying that he thinks that stuff, that CP is okay, that it's good, okay? And don't worry about me saying it's out of context. You will never catch me out of context saying that. You will never catch me out of context saying that. All right, but this is just a brief one. I don't want to linger on that because it's gross, but also it's fucking stupid. Let's keep going, shall we? Saprowski, yeah, I believe that. I believe that. Shit, oh man, feminist critique. I love that. I love that fun weird emoji. Hold on. Hold on a second. Oh damn, I gotta go subscribe to y'all so I can use that. That's hilarious. Okay, let's keep going.
Particularly the LGBT community is cancerous as fuck. If you're not an idiot, you will agree with me on this. If you have any fucking experience with online like LGBT or leftist discourse, you know it's cancerous as fuck. You understand this. People are hyper fragile. There's a ton of mental illness. And you can't convert these people. They're not reasonable. They have to be excised from the left. And it's because it's coming from dumb fucks who are gay. This person says they're gay as hell? Because it's coming from the gays. It's woke now.
Ooh! Oh boy, oh boy. So, as a queer person myself, I do take offense. I must say, as someone who has struggled with depression and could be quote unquote called mentally ill, I do take offense. But what I have to say is very specifically, when I was saying before that there is that liberals and that these type of quote unquote socialists support fascism, it shows here, right? Victor, thank you so much for following. This is what's important. When you actually have literal, from the book, Nazi talking points about how LGBT people are mentally ill, right? That is like when you say that we are degenerate, when you like, that's a word that they love, right? Yeah, let's get some of those gay sickle hammers in the chat, because I want to feel some love for myself and for my other queer comrades. I love y'all. I love myself. I'm proud. So yeah, what I have to say. There you go, Sean. Hell yeah, I take offense to this shit too. So what I have to say is that there is no difference. There is no difference from this and what the fascists say. The programs of the fascists that say that we're degenerate, that we deserve to die, right? It all starts out with this shit. Thank y'all so much for the love. That actually makes me feel pretty good. I really appreciate that. Thank y'all for all that love. That's really great. So yes, Elisa, that's great. Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate you taking offense for us. So yeah, this is really important because it shows that with social chauvinism, there is no real difference between social chauvinism and the Nazi program. All right. So eventually, they will support fascists. They have supported. I mean, they've supported fascists against communists in time and time again in revolutionary circumstances. But more importantly, there's no difference in their actual day-to-day philosophy from in these particular ways from the far right. Right? Thank you so much, Ancom Soccer Mom. I appreciate that. So yeah, that's all I want to say. That's really all I want to say here, is that I'm sorry, Jason. I appreciate that you can come out to us, that you can be real with us about who you are. You know what I mean? I lived in that same kind of place. I had a lot of internalized homophobia for a lot of my life, and I know it's hard. I know this shit. I know, when you see people like this who are allegedly your people, right? They call themselves part of the left, saying this kind of bigoted ass shit, right? It hurts. It's hard. Yes, exactly, Prank Rat. That's exactly what I'm mentioning here. That is literally exactly what I'm mentioning here. So yeah. End of the day, what I'm saying here. Hey, Dickie. Agreed, feminist critique. We have fought too long, and so I want to make this point again. And you're going to get tired of me hearing it perhaps, but I think it's important to say, is that these people have a long-standing political tradition, a political tradition that reaches back 100 years, okay? That the political tradition of quote-unquote leftist anti-communism that eventually goes to support fascism has a 100-year tradition. Now, Marxist-Leninism, that's changed with time. Anarchism has changed with time, right? We have grown as philosophies. But when you are a quote-unquote leftist supporting capital, when you are a quote-unquote leftist supporting white supremacy, there's no growth in that ideology. They have a lot of focus on changing the way that things look on the outside. They have a lot of focus of presenting themselves as something new, but fundamentally it stays the same. Support the status quo. Be quietly bigoted, right? And fight communism at every corner. They will always do these things. They will support the status quo, they will remain bigoted, and they will fight communism at every turn. Straight up. So, and you see it, right? You can look at it with Kautsky and Bernstein. You can look at it with Vaush. You can look at it with the anti-communist left for the longest time, for all throughout the 50s and 60s, right? I don't think it's necessarily worth doing a big diatribe here about it, but it's a tradition, and it's a longer standing tradition that has remained the same than almost any American politics. Yeah, agreed. Agreed, Prank Rat. Quietly is open to interpretation. Yes, Annie. Exactly. Exactly, Annie. Exactly right. They recycle their verbiage to fit the time. Whatever's revolutionary at the time. Like right now, black liberation is more revolutionary, right? So, of course, Vaush is on the Black Lives Matters train, right? Of course, that's what he talks about. He has to talk about that in order to seem relevant. But the point is that fundamentally, still got those same three things, right? Further marginalized communities, imperialism, right? Supporting the status quo and being anti-communist. It's always the same thing. Hey, Big Sandwich, welcome. Okay, let's keep going.
These people are less than human to me. I have no respect for these people. These people are fucking disgusting. A large portion of the broader fucking like woke-tard cancel culture idpol left is predicated on shared mental illness. This is particularly prominent in the trans community. Pretty much every time an amount of dumb fuck lefty takes in my feed coming from trans people. I don't trans person. That is they hurt me and they hurt you. Because every time some dumb them, they're hurting the left. No, these people are ill.
Question. Things are never going to go
Sorry,
back
I had to squeeze through some of that. I didn't want to hear that shit anymore.
We're not going to fucking leave America. White people aren't leaving. Not giving North America back to Native people. Also, Native people aren't going to get some sort of weird cultural or geographic impetus over America to compensate for what we did to them. It's not happening. I don't care. We are not doing this weird fucking blood quantum, my soil is my blood bullshit, okay? Fuck off with that. First of all, you're not teaching me culturally shit, okay?
Okay. Woo! Okay, so I wanted to show the anti-indigenousness, but this is settler socialism, right? To say that you are not going to teach me shit as a white person, to say straight up that he already knows enough, that he doesn't want any indigenous person teaching him anything, right? Yeah, I fight for them. What does blood quantum have to do with anything? Exactly, right? He's just slamming together words that he heard online somewhere. But I just want to say, right? When you look at this, and you hear someone saying that they are very openly anti-indigenous, that they're so anti-indigenous that they don't consider land back to be a part of their program whatsoever, right? This shows that the quote-unquote socialism, the quote-unquote leftistness of Vaush is not based in anti-imperialism. It's not based in any kind of decolonization, right? So he can talk about Black Lives Matter as much as he wants. He can talk about how he supports marginalized people as much as he wants, but it is nonsense. Unless your communism is based in decolonization, your communism ain't shit, and it ain't communism, right? Because we can look at what the primary contradiction is of our age. And Lenin agreed what the primary contradiction is as far as being anti-imperialism. But we can very clearly say that because imperialism and the treatment of the colonized nations within the United States is our true primary contradiction, that this has to be the center of our movement, right? We have to focus on this, and that's why we say things like white people shouldn't lead. That's why what I do is I talk about teaching. I talk about things on a very like we're all in one room together type thing. I ain't held up above y'all, right? And the people who are actually quote unquote leading the movement should not be people who look like me, I think, in a lot of ways. But anyway, getting back to it, decolonization, anti-imperialism has to be the core of our movement, because every single socialist movement, from the proto-socialist movements before in the antebellum times, right, before the Civil War, the ones that were trying to do abolition, from those proto-socialist movements to the movements of the 1910s that eventually got killed by the 1930s, right? Because they turned their back on black people, to the hippie movement, right? When we look at all these different quote-unquote socialist movements and their failure, what we can say is the reason they have failed time and time again is because of their inherent racism, their inability to actually make anybody believe that they're doing any shit except for other white people, right? The reason why you have seen time and time again people organizing separately, the lack of unity on the left, right? When you see your marginalized comrades doing their own thing and not worrying about communism, it's because your communism isn't attractive, right? If your socialism isn't bringing in marginalized people by the in leaps and bounds, right? Because they are suffering the most, they have the most revolutionary potential, right? So if we as white folks don't see them banging down our doors to join our movement, that means we have something wrong with our movement, right? Of course, there's a certain amount of propaganda we have to get through, but there's a whole lot of white people acting up that pushes people away than ever the United States government could do in propaganda, right? Straight up. Vic Vaush from Earth. Yeah. So anyway, I think that y'all understand a lot of that, and I think that's good. That a lot of y'all are really concentrated on the decolonial aspect of what we're doing. A lot of y'all understand that the fear of indigenous rule is what drives white folks, and it's what ruins their movements, ruins our movements, right? So as long as we are living in fear of indigenous rule, as long as that is our primary motivator, that we want to have things better for ourselves and really don't give a fuck whatever has happened to other people in this United States, right? As long as we're sad about the prison system and sad about 1/3 of black men being arrested and having in some part of the carceral process, but we're not actually doing anything about it, that's not actually a part of our program, then we ain't shit. We just ain't shit. And it ain't going to work. So what will work is going where the revolutionary energy is, going where the true contradictions are. And if imperialism is the true contradiction, then fighting back against imperialism is the way forward.
You do not get to, through reparations, impose a cultural staple of your people onto us, okay? That's not how that works. You don't get to, and as apologies, your people will learn to work with the land. No, okay? That is not how that works. And
ooh, the racist Native American voice. Don't know if y'all heard that.
The land you once had. What if there are fucking white people there? I literally did a video on how I think saying the N-word isn't that bad. I'm pretty forward with my beliefs.
Yes, that was bad. I think we can all agree that was bad. It'll be his eviction notice when land back happens. Yeah, Sean. Oh boy. So Mr. Vaush over here saying that he has done a video about how saying the N-word is not that bad. I mean, that really goes in the face of people who keep saying like, "Oh, it was a long time ago. Oh, it was he said that so long ago. He said sorry for it, right? He made a video defending it, right? He just said he made a video defending it. So anyway, the person who made this particular video is Bolshevik Bodhisattva, right? And you can find them on Twitter. They're good. Yeah, leave it to a white man to defend using the N-word. Agreed. So yes, so this is very important, okay? This is very important to talk about, that Vaush's supporters look at this, and they see no problem. So they are not like us. Everybody in the chat right now, y'all look at this, and I think y'all had a problem with a number of these things, right? Didn't y'all? Didn't y'all have a problem with the fact that he said, we queers are less than human? Didn't y'all have a problem with the fact that he said that it's okay to use the N-word, that he said that Native Americans have no right to their own land, all right? I think y'all had a problem with quite a bit of this, wall to wall, exactly, Rod. So when his people come out and they say, "Oh, you don't understand. Oh, it's not that bad," they've seen these same videos, they've heard this shit, they've looked through it. They are not misguided. They are not just people who haven't learned enough. They are social chauvinists. They are okay with it. They can grow. They can change, right? Vaushites are not necessarily card-carrying Nazis, but they have a lot of growth to do. They have a lot of growth to do, and they are not like us. They're not communists. They're not anarchists. So we are the left. You know, we people who want revolution are the left. These people are not. Okay, so don't talk about it as if we're all in one movement. Fascists, yeah, exactly, to hit good. We are not all one movement. We are deeply different. We are deeply different in both our understanding of the world, our understanding of what is important, and our understanding of what has to be done, right? Because these people will always side with capital. Use my other hand. These people will always side with capital. The people who side with Vaush will always side with capital. They won't fight in a revolution. They can't even be bothered to take 2 seconds to try to think through the problem of saying the N-word by a white person. So if they won't take 2 seconds to do that, you think they're going to take up arms? You think they're going to be slipping messages and food to revolutionaries in the bushes? No, they're not like us. They have nothing to do with us. So we're not in the same movement. We are going to be the ones who are inspiring people. We are going to be the ones who are talking to the apolitical, to the people who are truly sad and discouraged with the way things are in the government, who see no hope. We are going to be giving hope to the hopeless. Not these motherfuckers, right? But for now, while our movement is weak, while our movement is small, while we are dealing with the failures of communists of the past, we are going to seem like we are the less popular ones. It has always been this way. We are less popular until the revolution really looks like it's going to start to happen, and then the disciplined ones are the ones who come out on top. These motherfuckers are going to side with capital. They always do. We are going to be the ones who come out on top. So have faith, you know. Have a little bit of faith in your own self and in your work. Do praxis. Reach out to regular people. You know what I mean? Fannin and Jackson focused heavily on the lumpen, and I think they were right to. Absolutely. Absolutely. So did Mao, right? I mean, in a lot of ways. Well, anyway, we can at least definitely say that Jackson did and the rest of the Black Panthers. And the Black Panther movement was the last important one in the United States. Really hasn't been much since. Like we've had some good things, especially for queer folks. I think we've had a little bit of cultural liberation in ways that I do think that black folks haven't. But that in many ways is because queer folks have been brought into white supremacy, you know? And we can be kicked out. Don't get it twisted, right? The fascists want us kicked out. But nonetheless, we are going to be okay. We are the ones who are doing the footwork. You think Vaush fans are out there in their neighborhoods doing tenant defense? I've never met a fucking Vaush fan at a tenant action, an eviction defense action. Not once. I have never, ever met a Vaush fan. I mean, I've never met one out in public. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is very important. A couple little things. Yeah, you know they tell you if they were, right? Yeah, correct, Rod Fun Muscle, correct. That's exactly right. So I got a couple other little things to show, okay? This is, someone says, over 90% of the Republican Party supports Trump. Why would they become sock Dems? Shu says, a huge chunk of my audience is exactly that person. The transition from the establishment sucks to the establishment sucks, so when you learn how fucked up everything is from a left-wing point of view, is not that crazy or unbelievable. I don't know why you guys give up on these people so much. Look, do I think that Trump supporters maybe one day will understand that communism is the way forward? Sure. Maybe. One day. I don't fucking know. But I will say very clearly right here, right now, the fact that Shu understands fundamentally that most of her, that a huge chunk of her audience are these people, right? These people who are not doing praxis, these people who are not out in their neighborhoods doing eviction defense, right? These people who are simply calling themselves leftists, trading in one ideology for another, going, you know, doing a return at the supermarket of ideas and coming back home with something else, right? When you see Shu talking about this so openly, I mean, it's pretty funny to me, but I think it really shows just how bad things are. There aren't any Republicans following me. There's no Republicans giving me pats on the back, right? Republicans are in my DMs telling me that I'm going to get the wall, and who knows? Maybe Shu has that too. But I do want to say very clearly that we have to know who our friends are and who our enemies are. And people who are doing nothing in their communities, people who have not done any reading or any interaction with theory outside of reading, right? These type peoples who just go to the supermarket of ideas and come back with something else that happens to be a little left-wing flavored, right? They're about as useful as people who take their Coca-Cola back to the supermarket and bring home Pepsi and say that they've changed as a person. They have not. There is no difference, right? Until you do something, until you actually change yourself at least, there is no difference. Yeah, I mean, agreed, Magoki. Red Cosmonaut, no, Shu is not better than Vaush. You are wrong. And I love you, but you are wrong. I mean, straight up, you're wrong, bro. And I do respect you. I mean, you are my friend. I'm not trying to come for you here. But we have to view Shu as the same level of reactionary as Vaush. There is no levels to this shit. Shu is a reactionary. Shu makes Republicans comfortable by saying that, oh, we're libertarian socialists now. We've gone from libertarian to libertarian socialist. Oh, we're socially acceptable now. Oh, we can, we can try to pick up people at the Black Lives Matter protest, right? So it's very important. It's very important to note this, right? That these people who are anti-revolutionary, who consider themselves social democrats, who consider themselves any of these other things, right, that are not revolutionary in nature, they are our enemies, and they have been our enemies. Shu maybe is even worse than Vaush in some ways, but it is no competition. If they're not communists, they ain't with us. If they're not communists, then they have. And I include anarcho-communists in this particular definition of communist I'm talking about right now. If they're not revolutionary, then they are going to fight with the fascists. They are going to fight against us physically, because they always have. Now, this may sound reminiscent of some people who say things about MLs, about like, communists are always like bait and switching people. But the thing is, there's a little bit of difference. And one of the main differences is that that these type of people historically, right, have been planning from the get-go. The people at the top have been cynically planning to do bad shit from the get-go. When you have a siege state, when things go bad in the inside of a fledgling socialist country, and things have gone bad in some socialist countries, there's no doubt about it. Some of the stuff that we hear about is CIA propaganda. There's also no doubt about that, okay? There's absolutely no doubt about that. But some of the things that did happen, that did go wrong inside socialist countries, we can say, we as disciplined and principled communists can admit when that happens, right? But there's a big difference between something going wrong in a siege state whenever you're being actively attacked by billions of dollars worth of material and humans and propaganda, right? Versus people who are planning from the get-go to fuck around, right? People who are planning from the get-go to oppose you, right? Their philosophies end up with us dead. Absolutely, Comrade Kenny. So these people are going to fight us, And I mean these people, not just Vaush, not just Shu, but their fans. The point of this whole thing that I'm doing here, the point that I'm talking here is that you're not like a Vaush fan, you're not like a Shu fan. And if you do find yourself liking Vaush or Shu, then you have to look at that. You have to really take some time and wonder why. All right. Red Cosmonaut says, I guess I see my teenage self when I look at Shu. I have to try to not let that cloud judgment. Yes, exactly. I mean, I used to like Chapo Trap House, and they're social chauvinists too. I mean, sorry for myself that I'll never get on Chapo Trap House now saying that shit. But yeah, they're social chauvinists too. We can absolutely admit when the people who kind of helped bring us left a little bit are still shitty, Bernie's an imperialist. I volunteered for the Bernie campaign. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Hey, Salamander Sweet. How you doing? So, let's see. that pretty much rounds out most of that shit. So thank y'all for coming to my stream. I appreciate y'all coming on and talking to me about some of these people. And just the things I want you to walk away with is, if you like Vaush, if you like Shu, I want you to look at yourself and wonder why. I want you to take a good hard look at this. And on the other hand, I want you to say to yourself, Vaush, Shu, and all of their followers are reactionaries. They are going to support capital. They are actively going to support the status quo, which includes racism. They are bigots. And they are anti-communist. They are always going to be anti-communist. There is nothing about these people that's going to change until they do some serious self-work, all right? So that includes them and their followers. Y'all don't get into a bunch of Twitter battles with people who ain't like you. You don't go onto Republicans' pages and expect them to be like you. You don't plead with them to stop thinking the way that they think. You treat them like the enemy that they are. And that's how we have to start treating these people, right? Because they ain't like us and they ain't going to be convinced until they do that looking at themselves. So thank y'all so much. Thank you, Kenny. I agree. It is good seeing the numbers go up. Your numbers have been going up. Kenny streams for hours at a time and consistently stays up at the 50, 60 viewers. I've seen you go way higher than that too. So let me everybody give shout outs in the chat to everybody who came by. Let's give a shout out to the comrade Kenny. Thank you, KDC. I appreciate that. Mostly my shit is not this bombastic though. No problem, Jason. The comrade Kenny. Let's do a shout out to Anarchist Laboratory. Let's do a shout out to Salamander Sweetie. Ah, damn, I can't spell. There we go. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. Now let's see who we're gonna raid. We got 100 people. We can do a fun raid with this. Where are we looking at? Let's see who's online. I appreciate it, Karl Marx. Thank you so much. Thank you for saying that this is fire. It was a lot of fun. Looks like Pinko the Bear's online. Doc Midnight is online, who I like. What do you think? Y'all want to go visit Pinko the Bear? Let's see. You know what? We visited Pinko the Bear before. Although Pinko came on the stream, that should probably be nice. But yeah, Doc Midnight. Doc Midnight's on right now. Let's do Doc Midnight. Let's see. Oh, Pinko. I think Pinko's just gaming right now, y'all. Okay, everybody's saying Pinko. We can do Pinko. Might as well. Why the fuck not? Wait, hold up. So, somebody else said something else? GOP Aesthetic. I don't know who they is. Pinko. Are they still doing the charity stream, Rod? Oh shit, then we need to do that. All right. Let's do the charity stream then. Doc Midnight _ Okay. Yeah, we're raiding. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate y'all. This has been a lot of fun. I only try to do these shitting on people's streams, shitting on Sundays with bad takes at brunch. Let's get ready to go. Let's do it.